digital flicker fades as the heavy bronze of mediolanum swings upon the hinges of the soul, and the static of the modern street is drowned by the rhythmic pulse of a heart tuned to the ancient meters of the morning. Here in the brief space between the scrolling thumb and the eternal eye, we encounter the governor who became the shepherd, not by the will of the flesh, but by the sudden cry of a child echoing through the basilica like a divine decree. You seek power in the thunder of the forum, but find it instead in the stillness of a man who stood before the purple of the empire and forbade the threshold to a bloodied Caesar until the crown bowed lower than the cross. This is the wisdom that does not trickle from the parched lips of the sophist, but flows like the golden abundance of a celestial hive, where the bees of the spirit deposited their nectar upon the infant mouth of a sleeping saint. We walk through the architecture of his sentences, where every stone is a syllogism and every window is a hymn designed to catch the first light of the eternal rerum conditor before the world wakes to its toil. There is a way to this tribute that defies the lightness of the screen as we navigate the corridors of his rhetoric, where the law of the land was transmuted into the liturgy of the Lamb. He did not merely speak of the light, he fashioned the very lamps that hold it through the antiphonal chanting of 1,000 voices rising in a single tide to wash away the dry dust of Aryan shadows. Witness the power that commanded the earth to yield the hidden bones of martyrs, so that the foundations of our faith might be bolstered by the crimson testimony of the soil itself. His wisdom was a sharp blade wrapped in silk, a gentle hand that guided the restless mind of the African rhetorician from the labyrinth of the Manichees to the clarity of the Milanese font, where the waters of rebirth stilled the storms of a wandering heart. We are the heirs to that quiet intensity, the beneficiaries of a man who understood that the true defense of a city lies not in its walls, but in the sanctity of its hymns and the unyielding posture of its bishop. In this fleeting moment of devotion, the YouTube horizon collapses, and the hashtags of the world are silenced by the gravity of the mitre and the staff. We explore not a map of dead geography, but a topography of the inner life, where the honeycomb of the word is tasted in the silence of the cell. Ambrose speaks across the chasm of the centuries, telling us that the emperor is within the church, not above it, and that the power of the believer is found in the bended knee rather than the clenched fist. His legacy is the fragrance of the sanctuary and the structure of the prayer that holds the dawn in its hands, preventing the darkness from reclaiming the world. We pause in this digital atrium to feel the vibration of the Ambrosian chant moving through the marrow of our bones. A brief but monumental encounter with the architect of the Western spirit, who knew that to lead men, one must first be led by the word. The tribute is short, but the resonance is infinite as we breathe in the incense of his courage and the honey of his grace. It is a call to the deep, to the hidden places where the wisdom of the ages waits to be rediscovered by those who tire of the shallow currents of the day. As the video concludes and the pixels rearrange themselves into the next distraction, the image of the bishop remains etched upon the retina of the spirit, a sentinel of the sacred, a master of the melody, and father to all who seek the power that is perfected in humility. May the nectar of his eloquence soften the hardness of our speech, and may the iron of his resolve fortify the weakness of our will as we step back into the world, carrying the quiet fire of Milan within the sanctuary of our own private silence. The air within the vaulted nave is thick with the scent of ancient beeswax and the collective sigh of 1,000 intentions. Yet it is not the incense that defines the boundary of our belonging. We are a mosaic of fractured vessels held together by a light that refuses to dim, a geometry of mercy, where every line converges upon the wounded heart of the Nazarene. We do not walk as specters in a lonely gallery, but as a phalanx of brothers and sisters whose rhythm is dictated by the pulse of the Eucharist, moving in a slow and sacred synchronization toward the dawn. It is a terrifying transparency, this mandate to be known not by the silk of our vestments or the weight of our silver, but by the manner in which we carry the burden of the stranger. To love as we are commanded is to bleed into the garden of the world, to offer the cooling water of our own sacrifice to the parched throat of the forgotten, until the very dust of our transit glows with the friction of charity. We move as one spirit through the narrow gates of the city, our feet treading a path worn smooth by the persistence of the saints. There is a singular resonance in the way our voices interlace, a polyphony of the redeemed that rises above the clamor of the marketplace. We are the architects of a kingdom that is built not of stone and mortar, but of the interlocking of palms and the steady gaze of compassion. In the marketplace of indifference, our unity is a scandal and a sanctuary. We walk side by side, not because our paths are easy, but because our destination is shared, anchored in the belief that no soul is an island and no grief is solitary. The world watches from the shadows of its own isolation, looking for a sign, searching for a mark that distinguishes the children of the promise from the children of the age. And they find it not in our proclamations, but in the calloused hands that lift the fallen, and the quiet persistence of our communal prayer. To work side by side is to weave a tapestry where the thread of one's labor is indistinguishable from the thread of another's. We guard each human dignity as if it were a sacred flame flickering in a gale. For we recognize in the face of the broken the reflection of the Creator's own countenance. There is no hierarchy in the crucible of service. The prince and the pauper are bound by the same towel and the same basin. We strive to heal the ruptures of the earth, to mend the tattered edges of justice with the needle of grace. It is a labor of endurance, a long obedience in the same direction, fueled by the knowledge that every act of kindness is a stone laid in the foundation of the eternal city. When we toil, we do not toil for the vanity of monuments, but for the restoration of the divine image in the eyes of the despairing. The choir swells now, a tidal wave of sound that shakes the rafters and settles in the marrow of the bone. It is the sound of a people who have found their center, a resonance that transcends the limits of language and the boundaries of time. We sing of the Father, the architect of the stars, from whom all love cascades like a waterfall into the valley of human experience. We sing of the Son, the Word made flesh, who taught us that the greatest power is found in the ultimate surrender. We sing of the Holy Spirit, the breath that animates our clay and binds our disparate hearts into a single throbbing organism of faith. This doxology is the seal upon our mission, the final breath of a hymn that never truly ends. For its echoes are carried out into the streets, into the hospitals, into the prisons, and into the quiet rooms of the dying. They will know us by the way we linger. When others flee, they will know us by the way we speak the truth with a tongue seasoned by gentleness. They will know us by the stubbornness of our hope and the prodigality of our forgiveness. Our love is not a sentiment but a substance, a visible reality that alters the chemistry of the room. It is the mark of the Christian, the indelible character of a soul that has been submerged in the waters of the Lamb. As we depart the sanctuary, we carry the choir within us, the melody of unity, serving as a compass in the wilderness. We are the living lyrics of a hymn composed by God, a testament written in the ink of our daily devotion, declaring to a weary world that love is the only force capable of turning the tide of history. All praise to the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, in whose triune embrace we find the pattern of our own communion forever and ever, until the dawn of the final day, when love is all in all. In the hollow of the hill, where the cedar drinks the sun in silence, two gray-clad figures walk the periphery of a promise long deferred, their footprints filling with the fine red dust of a kingdom that had forgotten how to bloom. They were the hushed prelude to the thunder, the narrow mountain path that leads at last to the wide and terrifying sea of the infinite Joachim, whose heart was a furrow plowed by decades of drought, sought the solitude of the high places, where the wind smells of salt and the bleaching of bones, offering up a childless sorrow to the architect of the stars. He carried the weight of a lineage that seemed to end in his own marrow, a branch of Jesse that refused to yield its green. Standing amidst his flocks, while the sky remained a sheet of hammered brass. His prayers were not the loud clamor of the marketplace, but the slow rhythmic grinding of stone upon stone, a patience that had outlived the youthful fire of desire and settled into the steady aching embers of a holy resignation. He was the quiet sentinel at the gate of a mystery he could not yet name, guarding the silence of a house that echoed only with the ghost of a daughter's laughter. And in the secluded garden, where the terebinth casts a shade like spilled wine, watch the sparrows weave their nests with a grief that was both sharp and sacred. Her womb was a cathedral of silver and shadow, a vessel waiting for a drop of the uncreated light. Yet the years had passed over her like dry leaves over a threshold. She did not rail against the heavens with the bitterness of the broken, but rather offered her emptiness as a gift, a hollow space where the spirit might one day breathe. She moved through the corridors of her home with the grace of a woman who carries a secret treasure that does not yet exist. Her hands stained with the blue of the wool she spun and the gray of the ash from the hearth. Her tears were the hidden springs of Nazareth, watering the roots of a hope that the world deemed withered. A quiet stubbornness of faith that bloomed in the wrinkles of her eyes. She was the lone, the rich, and ancient earth, prepared through generations of fidelity to receive the seed of the woman who, in turn, enclosed the unenclosable. When the two shadows met at the Golden Gate, the intersection of their long suffering became the pivot upon which the history of the universe began to turn. They did not speak of the angels who had whispered in their separate solitudes, for their union was a liturgy of touch and recognition, a recognition that the long winter of Israel was drawing to a close. In that embrace, the hiddenness of their lives became the foundation stone of a temple not made with hands. They were the chosen cultivators of the rose of Sharon, the humble gardeners of the new Eve, tasked with the impossible weight of nurturing the one who would nurture the light. Theirs was the labor of teaching the Mother of God how to walk upon the dust she had helped create, of guiding her tongue to speak the holy names that had echoed in the void before the first dawn. They were the first to see the morning star rising in the eyes of a child, the first to hold the hand that would one day hold the weight of a broken world beneath the shadow of a cross. Within the small stone rooms of their dwelling, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of dried herbs and the fragrance of a purity that the world had never known. They raised her not with the pride of those who have birthed a queen, but with the trembling reverence of those who serve at an altar. Joachim showed her the stars and spoke of the ancient covenants. His voice, the low rumble of the mountains he had traversed in his exile, and taught her the rhythm of the loom and the cadence of the songs, her fingers guiding the small hands of the child through the patterns of the law and the prophecies. They were the invisible architecture of the incarnation, the scaffolding that supported the construction of the tabernacle. Every word they spoke to her was a brick in the wall of her soul. master of love, a stitch in the garment of her grace. They raised the mother of grace in the shadow of the ordinary, hallowing the mundane with the intensity of their quiet devotion, never seeking the spotlight of the coming glory. When their work was done, they faded back into the golden haze of the past, like the morning mist that vanishes when the sun ascends the zenith. They are the hidden saints, the patron of the quiet corner, and the unspoken sacrifice, whose names are carved into the very lintels of the house of God. They did not witness the Annunciation or the birth in the stable, nor did they stand on the hill of the skull to see the fruit of their labor offered for the life of the world. They died in the twilight of the old era, their eyes fixed on the horizon, where the first streaks of the new day were just beginning to bleed through the gray. They left behind no monuments of In the shadow of the Pyrenean peaks, where the wind carves the stone into needles of ice, there lived a small breath of a girl, a flicker in the damp gloom of the cachot. The walls of her world tasted of salt and ancient hunger, yet her hands held the worn wood of the beads, as if it were the only warmth left in the hollow of the earth. Bernadette, small sister of the brambles, gatherer of dry wood along the banks of the Gave. You did not seek the thrones of the valley or the gold of the cathedral spires, for your eyes were tuned to a frequency of the unseen, a quiet hum beneath the roar of the mountain water that others mistook for silence. Massabielle waited like a mouth of earth, dark and forgotten by the respectable, a sanctuary for the refuse of the river and the prayers of the desperate who had nowhere else to turn. Then came the tremor in the leaves of the wild rose, a rustle that was not the north wind, but the stirring of a celestial garment. A lady of light stood in the niche, clothed in the brilliance of 1,000 midnights turned to noon. Her feet graced by the yellow roses of the mountain, her waist bound by a ribbon, the color of a summer sky after the rain. You knelt in the dirt, the rosary sliding through your fingers like smooth pebbles of faith. And in that moment, the hierarchy of the world was inverted. For the Queen of the Stars spoke to the child of the breadlines in the language of the heart. They laughed when you scratched at the earth with trembling hands, your fingernails blackened by the silt, and the mockery of the wise who see only the surface of things. You drank the muddy slurry, an act of madness to the clean, a feast of humility that the proud could never swallow. But the mud grew clear, the earth surrendered its secret, and a vein of liquid silver began to pulse from the rock. A persistent heartbeat of mercy that would never run dry. This was the baptism of the grotto, where the wounds of the flesh met the purity of the hidden deep, and the water carried the scent of a grace that does not bargain with the worthy, but flows freely to the broken. I am the Immaculate Conception. patois of the poor and the rhythm of the shepherd's call carried those heavy words like precious porcelain back to the gates of the town. You did not understand the dogma of the scholars, yet you were the living vessel of its truth, a child of grace who walked between the raindrops of doubt without getting wet. Your poverty was your protection, a transparency that allowed the light of the lady to pass through you without the distortion of ego or the shadow of ambition. You were the messenger who became the message, a quiet witness to the reality that the smallest soul is the widest window for the divine. The world demanded a spectacle, a saint to be touched and measured. But you chose the shadow of the cloister, the white veil of nevers, where the only applause was the clicking of beads and the slow erosion of your bones. Your suffering was a silent liturgy, a long winter of the body, where the flowers of the grotto were replaced by the thorns of the cross. I am ground like a grain of wheat, you said, as the light of your soul prepared to leave the fragile lantern of your frame. You did not ask for the healing you gave to millions. You offered your pain as a ladder of sighs, reaching toward the one who smiled at you in the niche of the rock when you were only a girl with a bundle of sticks. Now the mountains echo with the songs of the pilgrims, a river of fire moving through the dark. Each candle a prayer ignited by your simple and devastating yes. The water still rises cold and crystalline, washing the dust from the eyes of the blind and the heavy burdens from the hearts of the weary. Child of grace, you remain in the stillness between the notes of the hymn, a reminder that the most profound miracles are found in the mud, that the highest heavens are reached by those who kneel the lowest, and that the grace of the lady is a spring that begins in the heart of a child who was never afraid to believe in the impossible. The violet shadows lengthen across the marble nave as the clock strikes the 7th hour of the Lord's day, marking the quiet descent of Sunday into the embrace of the Lenten night. A singular gravity pulls the air toward the altar, where the beeswax tapers flicker like dying stars against the weight of the purple shrouds. Here, the breath of the faithful becomes a visible offering, a mist of devotion, rising from the pews to meet the cold stone of the vaulted ceiling. We gather not in the triumph of the morning, but in the bruised light of the evening, carrying the dust of our mortality like a garment we have finally learned to wear with grace. The silence is a heavy velvet, a pregnant pause that contains the history of every wilderness journey and every thirsting cry from the wood of the tree. How can the tongue navigate the geography of a grace so vast it swallows the horizon, a charity so profound it chooses the nails over the crown? The melody begins as a low hum in the marrow, a